The Smoky Valley High School teacher chosen by the members of the senior class to speak with you this evening is Miss Shelly Carlson. Miss Carlson and her husband Calvin live a few miles outside of Lindsborg, and they have 3 adult children and 6 grandchildren. They've been entrepreneurs together for about 35 years in farming, ranching, and selling farm real estate. Shelly has a degree in home economics education from Kansas State University and loves to teach. She's taught in the Smoky Valley School District for 13 years, home educated their children for 12 years, helped to begin the virtual charter school, and has given numerous creative artistic programs in the community. Shelly loves to encourage others and help them discover more about themselves and their purpose in life. Please join me in welcoming Miss Shelly Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. What an honor it is to be before you this evening. I give a heartfelt welcome to in-person and online faculty, friends, families, and especially to the Smoky Valley High School senior class of 2021. I teach a lot of different classes in FACS. That's home ec for those of you that don't know. But my very favorite class is the fashion and design class where we sew and make a project during lab times. It's so much fun because it combines what I love, teaching, creating, and connecting to the students. I've been sewing since I've been 7 or 8 years old, and it's brought me much joy and satisfaction as I've used my gifts to create something useful for myself or others. So, a sewing project is the topic of my presentation for tonight. Let me start with a story. Once upon a time, there was a young girl. She loved to work with her hands and create things, often with repurposed materials. One summer, she got to go spend a couple weeks at her grandmother's house. Her grandma lived in an old white 2-story farmhouse, like many of you have seen in the countryside outside of Lindsborg. The young girl was so excited because Grandma had invited her favorite cousin and was going to help them cut fabrics, shapes, and piece them together into the girl's first and very own quilt. Her mom helped her to gather together fabrics from previous sewing projects, so she had a stash of brightly colored fabric scraps to add to those of her cousin and her grandmother. With Grandma's direction, the girls cut squares of fabric in solid colors and squares of fabric in matching colored designs. They sewed them together into a 9-square pattern, one block after another, in what became a rhythmic, kind of monotonous routine. The girls broke the time up, running and playing outside and giggling a lot, but they were persistent and finally completed the number of blocks necessary to finish the quilt top. The grandma then took a large piece of yellow fabric and tore it into long, even strips. These strips were sewn between the blocks, connecting them into one large quilt top. Okay, I know that you knew that story was about me. Almost 50 years later, I still have that quilt that Grandma Clark helped me to make. And yes, you can chuckle at those vintage 70s fabrics. A quilt. A quilt makes a wonderful metaphor for a graduation speech. What thoughts can we glean from a quilt to help you step forward into the next chapter of your life? There are many, and I will choose just a few, I promise. The first thing I notice about a quilt is the overall pattern that its creator used. This quilt pattern, like I said, is called the 9-square. There are hundreds and hundreds of quilt patterns. One is even called the crazy quilt pattern, and I think that might describe a few of you. Have you ever thought about how there's a pattern or a theme to people's lives? Humor me. Close your eyes for just a minute and think about a person that you admire and you know well. Not someone that you follow online, but someone that you've spent time with and observed. If you needed to make an introduction of this person you admire, how would you describe them? What are the key things that you really admire about them? Got some things in mind? Okay, open your eyes. Now, what do those things all have in common? Is this person maybe devoted to their family, an honest and hardworking person, loyal and trustworthy no matter what? If so, that's the pattern of their life's theme as such. Let me give you an example about someone that I admire, my dad. For their 50th anniversary, I asked people to send letters to my parents about what they remembered and appreciated about them. Over and over in those letters, I read the same types of things about my dad. In high school, he drove through a blizzard at Christmas time to get his cousins so they wouldn't spend time alone right after their dad had died. He rode a tilled a widow's flower bed. He had us deliver garden produce to our neighbors and mow the yard at the church for free every week. He spent time with his family and he loved his wife, my mom. What do these things have in common? He did kind acts of service for others. My dad had a servant heart and he cared about people. If I had the opportunity to introduce him to you right now, I wouldn't talk about his bank account or anything he owned. I would talk about the pattern of his life, how he repeatedly served other people. What will the pattern of your life be? Your theme, the thing that you will be known for over time. Choose to create the pattern of your life and start being that person today. The pattern on this quilt is made up of smaller fabric squares. If this quilt is a metaphor for you, what makes up the fabric squares of your life? Your life consists of days full of myriads of events, experiences, and opportunities. These experiences are similar to the many fabric scraps that make up this quilt. Some of these days have experiences that are interesting and challenging and varied, like the bright patterned fabric in these blocks. Perhaps you've gone on an amazing trip to Disneyland, adopted a special pet, attended prom, which we got to have this year, or had a profound aha moment. These events are special and influential, sometimes even life-changing. Graduating high school is one of those special events that you will remember for the rest of your life. Most of the adults here could tell you all about their graduation day, even after a lot of years. Continue to make memories. Be adventurous. Step outside your comfort zone. Try new things. Grow as a person and add more colorful pattern to your life. Choose to cherish these memorable days of your life. A reality of life, though, is that some of those pattern days are not of your choosing, and they bring challenging things into your life. They feel darker, more difficult. These days are also memorable, but because of hardship instead of joy. There is a saying, upon every life, a little rain must fall. Can we all say COVID? A worldwide pandemic shut down our school and took us online to do our classes this past year. We all experienced this hardship together, yet apart. It's been hard. Here's a little tip for you. Remember to save your masks. You can wear them to your high school reunions just for fun. There will be more challenging things that do touch your life. Meet these challenges head on. Learn from them. On the other side, you will be stronger and more empathetic to others. Choose to display courage in your challenging days. Between the patterned fabric squares on this quilt, there are other squares cut from solid colored fabrics. These represent your everyday days. You know, the ones that run together and you don't really remember. Now be honest, that describes many of your days in high school, right? You got up, went to school, attended classes, did your homework, well, or at least most of it, right? These days are more routine and predictable, like the plain colored squares in the quilt. They don't set your world on fire, and you don't remember them specifically. But the reality is, most days are like this, just everyday days. But guess what? You get to decide how these everyday days will go. You can choose to act in ways that over time form habits. These habits will set you forwards or backwards in the direction of your life. You can get up to your alarm, make your bed, and move into your day. You can choose to eat well and exercise using sunscreen, of course. You can take an interest in others and treat them respectfully. Over time, the activities and choices you make on these everyday days forge your character. This quote says it so well. Watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. Watch your character, they become your destiny. Choose good character. Set a direction for your everyday days and become a person of destiny. And remember, today is a great day to begin choosing well. All the blocks in this quilt are joined together with yellow strips of fabric. The bright fabric surrounds the blocks with color and ties it all together. Yellow symbolizes optimism, energy, happiness, and friendship. As you move through life, approach the events and people you encounter with a positive attitude. This perspective will provide so much energy and will fuel your courage. Plus, it just makes you a whole lot more fun to be around. So, dump the sarcasm, dump the complaining. Never once have I known a negative attitude to help in any way. Choose to be cheerful every day and to have a positive outlook. Be the cup is half full person and have an I can do it attitude. Okay, so I know the word cheerful is kind of cheesy, but it starts with a C. When my quilt was all pieced together, my mother sent it out to be quilted. A woman in my hometown layered the quilt top, the fiber batting, and the backing fabric, and with a needle and thread made row upon row of little stitches across that quilt. I know you can't see it, but this quilting holds the layers together so the batting inside doesn't get in a wad. What will hold your life together? I would like to propose that it's your values, the deeply important things that you hold dear. In my personal experience, my deeply held values of faith in God, love for family and friends, the desire to be creative and teach, and the hope that I might encourage others brings me such hope and purpose. Your values are the straight lines of stitching that help you to make good decisions and keep your life from getting in a wad. Choose to keep your values at the center of your life. They will hold your life together. Lastly, what's the purpose of a quilt? I had a neighbor that made quilts, and she had them all folded up and stacked in her closet. I always thought it was such a shame. A quilt is made for a purpose, to wrap a person up and keep them warm, to lay on the ground for a picnic, or to cover a bed. You have a purpose. You are created uniquely and are gifted, a one-of-a-kind person. Choose to be charitable and share your gifts with the world to make it a better place. There's a lot that goes into making a quilt, and there's a lot that goes into making a fulfilling life. Choose to create your pattern. Start being the person today that you want to be remembered by tomorrow. Choose to cherish the memorable days of your life. Choose to display courage on your challenging days. Choose good character and become a person of destiny. Choose to be cheerful and have a positive outlook. Choose to keep your values at the center of your life. They will hold things together. Choose to be charitable and share your gift with the world to make it a better place. God cares about the pattern of your life. In Jeremiah 29:11 it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future." Class of 2021, I wish you the very, very best. Go and be the good you want to see in the world. Thank you.